We established in our previous video that we want to enter flow as much as possible to do deep work. So the first question we might ask is, how do we create conditions in which flow is most likely to occur? And what we want is an environment that facilitates single-minded focus on the one thing we are working on and eliminates everything else. So let's talk about some techniques and tools for doing that. The first thing you'll notice on my desktop here is that I try and keep it decluttered. Now, I will admit I cheated. I moved a bunch of stuff right before starting this video, so you think I'm more organized than I actually am. But I do periodically do this. So the first thing is our desktops tend to accumulate all kinds of clutter. Every one of those things is a little subconscious message to your brain that you have 1,000 responsibilities and things to do. So one easy technique to get that out of sight, out of mind, is just dump it all in a single folder. I've got this one called To File. I periodically move everything in there, and I know where I can find it. I can also go through at some point and organize those files. The other thing I have on my desktop is this shortcut I titled Zen, which is a script that basically closes everything on my computer that's open. I like to try and keep programs closed because every one of those open programs, again, if it's a calendar, my email is a reminder that I have 1,000 other things I could be doing. I also try and keep my dock minimized. Whatever operating system you're on, you can think about that the same way. I only want my essential programs here. I want them minimized, closed if I can. You can also go through and close notifications. Keep in mind that every company that writes software wants you using that software as much as possible. And we now live in a world where we're interrupted 10,000 times a day by notifications, by little red circles on our apps indicating waiting messages, things that need our attention. This little one up here on Dropbox drives me crazy. I've got some kind of stuck file that needs to be synced. Whatever, it's a beacon to my brain that something's not right in my universe that I have to fix. So I want to get rid of all that clutter. One way to do that on a Mac is if you go into System Preferences, Notifications, you can actually go through app by app and start disabling stuff. You can do the same thing on your phone. I personally have no social media apps installed on my phone, and I have disabled notifications for almost everything unless I think it could be urgent or essential. The goal is to minimize the number of interruptions in my day. I do the same thing in my email. I'm appalled when I look at friends' emails sometimes and see how much junk mail accumulates. Pretty much anything that crosses my inbox, if I don't have a pressing need for it, I unsubscribe. That includes almost all commercial mailings. I really want to pare down my universe to a very aesthetic, focused life where I give my attention to what I want to, not what marketers want me to give my attention to. One of the most important things about controlling your environment is eliminating temptation to let your mind wander. The biggest culprit here is the internet. When I'm writing, it's very cognitively demanding. When I feel stuck, I don't know what to write next, my brain starts to overheat. I immediately want to go get on the internet, read email, check Facebook. Often this can be under the guise of, quote, doing research, but usually it's an escape. It's avoiding the hard work that has to be done. So what I like to do is break my internet. You can download this app here called Self-Control. Very simple. You put in an amount of time, hit start, and your computer will block you from accessing the internet for that amount of time. If you really get desperate, there are some ways around this, but it's actually a huge pain. For me, this is usually enough to break that initial temptation to go surf the internet. Also a good idea to keep your phone out of the room where you're working or put it on airplane mode. The next thing you want to think about is focusing your entire computer on the one thing that you're doing. Many of us in the knowledge work world, I especially see this in the software development world, like multiple monitors and all kinds of things open, and we tell ourselves we're multitasking and being productive. Usually we're just frittering away all of our attention. I like to work on a single monitor. I've got a very nice 4K monitor. It's bright, it's pleasant to look at, doesn't hurt my eyes, and as much as possible, I work in full screen mode. So let's take a look at what this looks like. I use Scrivener for a lot of my writing. So let's say that we're going to start a new project, course paper. I will, for today's purposes, clutter my desktop by putting this here on the desktop. All right, now I don't even like looking at that desktop. That's stressing me out. I'm gonna go to full screen mode. And in Scrivener, you've got all kinds of things you can do. We can break our paper into sections. We'll talk more about Scrivener, but there's all this cool stuff we can do. I can put notes on here. I can create tags. I can have research in there. But when I'm writing, only one thing matters, that I'm focused on writing that given page, that given paragraph. Scrivener and many other apps, in addition to having a full screen mode, have a composition mode. That shortcut I've got by memory, Option Command F, boom. This is my flow state. This composition mode in Scrivener is my favorite way to work of any piece of software I've ever encountered because it's so distraction free, it's beautiful, it's elegant, and I can start writing. Clausewitz famously said, whatever it is that he said. Okay. And if I've disabled my internet, if I have no notifications, if my phone is out of the room, and if nothing else at all is on my screen, I am forced to reckon with my paper. It's very painful at first. The mind howls in protest, but I really have no choice here except to keep at it. And if I do that, eventually the switch flips and my whole world contracts to this page and I enter flow. This gets easier with practice. It's pretty much guaranteed almost any day I sit down to write that within about 10 minutes I can be in a flow state where I'm totally absorbed. Now, getting to that place is half the battle. Still very hard for me many days to sit down and actually enter this zone, but once I do, this allows me to focus quite well. Now, what if I need to be, doing research? What if in my paper I'm also referencing notes? Well, what I like to use is multiple desktops. So on a Mac, I just did a 3-finger swipe up. You can have multiple desktops open, each one of which can have a full screen mode. So here's my desktop that we saw earlier. I can do a 3-finger left or right swipe. There's my paper, and I can do one more 3-finger swipe. And now I am in my note-taking software. Do I really not have anything by Clausewitz? Okay, let's see. Maybe, there we go. I have case sensitivity on. Oh, there's my comps questions. No, you can't look at those. Let's see what I had to say. I've got some notes here on Posen. Okay, I've got some references down here. There's a reference to Clausewitz. Okay, now I can copy that. 3-finger swipe. I'm back in my paper. I can paste that. So what this does is it lets you be very deliberate about where you give your attention. In this one moment, I'm writing. In this one moment, I am pulling out a quote I need, and I'm back to writing. The other advantage of using multiple screens, let's say that I'm not in full screen mode. I've got 2 windows open. We'll minimize all this. If I want to pull that quote out, I have to do a lot of copying. I have to actually move my cursor back and forth, which is extra mouse clicks and more pain. There's a time and a place for this, but if you're in full screen mode, the cursor stays where you park it. So on this screen, typing something, and now I'm back to this screen, typing something with no mouse clicks. So that little bit of optimization I really like. So this is basically my workflow when I'm doing research. We could do the same thing with if we're maybe reading a PDF or a news article. We could have our article open in one window. Here I'm going to pull out a research paper that's in my to read file. We can put this in full screen mode if we want. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. I'm going to read. I'm going to come across some quote I like. Copy that, and boom, we can paste it right in. So Finding the right tools you like is step one, but then tailoring your workflow to focus exclusively on those is a useful next step.